And if the world be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Why did Solomon change direction? Well, he's human. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. You have to work at it. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. Her ways are the ways of pleasantness. But today I want to talk about godly wisdom is pure, because I've talked about wisdom, and wisdom is just knowledge. It's what you do, what you know. Now, I was in town here in Grand Junction the other day, and I had time to kill because I was early for an appointment, and I drove down by the river, and there's a shady street, so I parked in there and turned on the radio, and it was comfortable. And two people came by, one woman in a wheelchair, and the second woman was pushing her, and they went by across the street, and then they came back. And I was watching them in the rearview mirror. And as they walked, they stopped. And the woman, the pusher woman, she walked over to a trash can and started picking through the trash. And I found out it was a cigarette dispenser. There's a trash can, and in the top is sand or gravel, so you can take your cigarette and put it out. And underneath, they're quite clever. You can put your trash. And so I watched, and when this lady finished picking the butts up, she had a handful. And I was watching her in the rearview mirror, and she went over to her partner that she was pushing, and she gave the lady in the wheelchair butts. And the lady took her shawl. It was a cool morning, and she wrapped them up, and they went off. And boy, that stuck with me. See that? And I went home, and I thought and thought, but I can't help them. But I often wonder, people like that, how do they end up in that situation? You know? There they are. And when I have so much, and then I thought of you, and you have so much. And there's just people like them all over here in Grand Junction. I see a lot of people pushing shopping carts, and it's full of their worldly possessions. They got a tent and a sleeping bag and whatever, and they drive down there by the soup kitchen put on by the Catholics, and they do a lot of good. We've given them things at the soup kitchen. But then again, if you look in the Bible, Mark 14:7, He says, the poor will be with you always. The poor will be with you. We can't do a lot about it. Just help them what you can. But then Paul he's talking to his congregation. In the 1 Corinthians 6:2, Paul starts out, and he says, do you not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? And then 6:3, 1 Corinthians, know you not that we shall judge angels? No, I didn't know till I read this years ago. Think about it. He's going to wait till you are perfect enough to change you that you can judge an angel. How much more things that pertain to life? And Paul is writing about difference in his church, differences and trying to settle arguments. He's talking to us about that. But I wonder what happened to the women. My son works down there, and he said, a man came up to him and said, which way's Texas? And he said, well, that way. Well, what are you going to? What are you doing? He said, I'm going to Texas because it's going to get cold. You know, he's not right. The guy's not right. And I have so much. And we're doing okay. And this is where we need to count our blessings. No matter where you go to the feast, I want to remind you of these 3 points and keeping the holy days. And you here, we're going to have a feast here. We've done it for years, and not many people. We're getting old. I called Charles and Blair, and they're shrinking too. Old folks are passing away, and new people do whatever. But number 1, it's a blessing. Learn what you can while you're at the feast. Learn. While you can. The more older I get, the more crippled I get, and the more mistakes I make. And number 2, help. Be responsible. Do not show up with empty pockets. I get that from Deuteronomy 16:16, because as we read the Bible, and during the holy days, at the end or the beginning, we take up an offering. That's the way it is. Now, number 3, this is important to me. Remember what happened about a year ago at the great last day of the feast. Israel was attacked, and 1,200 people were murdered. Serious business war. It's serious. And it's in their house. It's in their country. And this week, pagers blew up. Hundreds of people were injured and some killed. Getting even. What causes all this? Well, probably 100 reasons, some of them biblical. But today I want to talk about wisdom. Godly wisdom. You can write that down. There's wisdom and knowledge. But godly wisdom is another subject. Now, get to it. Solomon wrote 3 books in our Bible, or he collected his sayings. And David did too, because you can read where he gave credit to different people were different psalms. Solomon wrote Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, the Song of Songs, and we call it the Song of Solomon, and he wrote a psalm. And I said, what? I forgot. And he did. It's in there. So let's start looking at wisdom, godly wisdom. 1 Kings 3:3. 1 Kings 3:3. I know this is a review for many of you, and Solomon loved the Lord, walked in the statutes of David, his father, only he sacrificed and burnt incense in high places. Let me explain that. There was no temple, so they had little altars built, and there were different places. And small altars were for poor people, like a dove or something, and they would kill it and burn it there. But there were high altars, high places, where the people would take cattle and larger offerings. And that was high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. 1,000 burnt offerings did Solomon offer upon the altar. A lot of money and a lot of work. In 5, in Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God asked, "What shall I give you?" 3:7. And now, Lord, O my God, you have made your servant king instead of David my father, and I am but a child. I know not how to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people, which you have chosen, a great people that cannot be numbered, nor counted for multitude. Giving therefore your servant an understanding heart, to judge thy people, that I may discern between good and bad. For who is able to judge thy people, so great a people? And the speech pleased the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. In 11, and God said unto him, Thou have asked this thing, and have not asked for thyself long life, neither have you asked for riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but you ask for yourself understanding to discern judgment. Very important to make judgment calls like an umpire in a sports game. A king, 1 Kings 3:12. Behold, I have done according to your words. Lo, I have given you a wise and understanding heart, so that there is none like you before you. Get that? None before. This guy was given the ability to perceive right God's way, right from wrong. Neither after these shall any arise unto like you. So he had it. He was made clever and able to say and perceive different situations to make the right decision. And God said, and I have also given you that which you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there be not any among the king like you until all of your days. And if you will walk in my ways and keep my statutes and my commandments, as thy father David did walk, then I shall lengthen your days. So all he had to do is try. And he would live older. And Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord and offered up burnt offerings. See, he had more. He could do that. And offered peace offerings and made a feast to all his servants. And you understand, they didn't just burn the whole cow. They killed it, gutted it, burnt the part that had to be burnt, and then they took the meat and cooked it and gave it to the poor, usually, or keep the Jews fed and keep the temple running. But this is before the temple. And so that's what they did. And to all his servants, they had a feast celebrating what God had given. Now, let's go. The Lord appears to Solomon a second time. So that's 1 Kings 3. We ended in 15. Let's go to 1 Kings 9:1. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished building the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all of Solomon's desire, which he was pleased to do. See, he built stalls for his horses. He had horses. He had chariots. He had it all. That the Lord appeared to Solomon a second time, as he had appeared to him in Gibeon. And the Lord said unto him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made before me. I have hallowed this house which you have built, to put my name there forever, and mine eyes and mine heart shall be there perpetually. And if you will walk before me, here it comes, this message for all of us. And if you will walk before me as David the father walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and judgments. That's it. Piece of cake, right? No. It's hard. It's hard. I was yelling at a guy in front of me because all the traffic moves, and they were on the cell phone or something. I'm saying, come on, lady. Come on, guy. Move it. So it's hard. Patience. 1 Kings 9:5. Then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever, as I promised to David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man upon the throne of Israel. But if you shall all turn from following me, here comes the catch. You or your children, and shall not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them. Then I will cut off Israel out of the land that I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name I will cast out of my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among the people. And at this house, which is high, everyone that passes by it shall be astonished and hiss. And they shall say, why hath the Lord done this? And they shall answer, because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold upon other gods. And we've had that happen here. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. I need to whatever your desire is, but you got to change, and have worshipped them and served them. Therefore hath the Lord brought evil upon them, all this evil. You can't walk your walk. You have to walk the walk that Jesus set for us. Now, why did Solomon change direction? Well, he's human. Let's go to 1 Kings 11:1. 1 Kings. But King Solomon loved many strange women, together with the daughter of the Pharaoh, women of the Moabites, Amorites, Edomites, Zoroastrians, and Hittites, of the nation concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, You shall not go into them, neither shall they come unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. That's what happens. We've had that happen here. Oh, I want to keep Christmas. Oh, I like to watch the queue, these shopping for women, and this morning they were selling Christmas junk. I'll call it what it is. My grandmother collected Christmas junk, a little manger and set in the window and all this stuff. I didn't know. I kind of liked it. But there's people over the phone or the computer buying on the queue thousands of dollars of stuff for Christmas. Little Santa Claus. Solomon crave unto these in love. In 11:3, and he had 700 wives. That's a mistake. Princes and 300 concubines. And here's, I underlined this in red. And his wives turned away his heart. That's what did it. So I've explained to you what tripped him up. Being around that stuff and listen to your wife, and we have a saying in our house, whoever you run with, whoever you visit, if they will likely pull you down. That's why I miss Albert. Because he would always help me, pull me up. Get it? And I underlined it again. And his wives turned away his heart. Your friends will get you. It's happened right here. And it came to pass when Solomon was old that his wife turned away his heart after other gods. And his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, and as was the heart of David his father. And Solomon went after Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Zebonites, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Amorites. And they sacrificed their children. Can you imagine? No, but it happened. And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and went not fully after the Lord as David his father. You have to stay on track, no matter how hard it gets and how crummy it gets. Now, I'll tell you about a little secret. Last Monday, I took a fall, and I spent some time in the hospital. X-rays, looking at me, poking me, and that sort of thing. You have to be careful. I'm just warning you. Drive your car carefully. Take that phone and put away. My son is a flagger out there, and he says, how many people, and he complains about it all the time. People pull up beside him, he's got the stop sign up, and they're texting. And he has a, hey lady, you can go now. Oh, and it's common. And so is sin in our nation. Just wise up. I thought what was interesting. Go with me to Nehemiah 13:26. Nehemiah 13:26. No? Okay. Hope you got a Bible. Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things? And he's having trouble, Nehemiah, with the Jews, the Israelite, marrying foreign women. They don't even speak the same language. Yet, among many nations, there were no king like him, who was beloved of his God. And it's talking about Solomon. Did not Solomon, the king of Israel, sin? Yeah. And let me pick it up again. And God made him king over Israel. Nevertheless, even did outlandish women cause to sin. Now, it's interesting. Solomon lived 1,000 years before Christ. 1,000. That's easy math. Nehemiah lived around 560. No, he wrote the book of Nehemiah in 434. 434 and 1,000. Well, 434 years before Christ, Nehemiah wrote this book. That's a difference of 566 years. There, I got it right. 566 years later, after Solomon, they're still talking about his sin and wives because it sticks in people's craws when they understand it. But Solomon was a smart man. God said, I will give it to you. I will give you wealth. Let's go to Proverbs 1 and 2. Proverbs 1 and 2. To know wisdom and instructions, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment and equity, to give stability to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsel. You have to work at it. There's a lot of wisdom out there that's not good for us. The people that own the Q, that program, they're making millions in an hour. It's amazing. The people buy that. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. Here it is. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. 1:7, Proverbs 1:7. But fools despise wisdom and instruction. I'm talking about godly wisdom. Following that. and you have to be disciplined. Let's go to Proverbs 3 and 13. Happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that gets understanding. If you make a right decision, like Kyle and Joy bought a house, I'm happy for them. And I heard they moved in. Cool. I bet they're happy in a house. Their house. And the bank. But I know that. They know that going in. But that's what I did. And that's what most people do. For the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof of fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all the things that you can desire are not to be compared to her. And that includes the new Corvette. Although somebody where I live has a candy apple red. It's perfect. But I can look. Length of days is in her right hand, and in her left hand riches and honor. Her ways are the ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. In 18, she is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her. Yeah, boy, when you make a right decision and it comes out right, it feels so good. It's like, wow, I did something right. And happy is everyone that retains her. The Lord by wisdom hath founded the earth. That's a good one. A good phrase. By wisdom. He figured out what you need to live here. And he did it. And we have a good life here. We have water. I drove by the Colorado River, and it's full of water, still running. And there's going to be snow in the mountains, maybe this weekend. By understanding, he has established the heavens. And you go out, and how many times have I told you to look up, see the stars? That's great. Let's go to James 1 and 5. New Testament, James 1 and 5. If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, that giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not. In other words, he doesn't hold back. It shall be given him. In 1:6, James. But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, and with the wind and tossed. Very true. Now let's look at some more of the wisdom of Christ, the wisdom and the power of God, of making the right decision and having the right knowledge and doing what's right. 1 Corinthians 1:18. 1 Corinthians 1:18. For the preaching of the cross is to them that perish foolishness, but unto us which are saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this world? Hath God made foolish the wisdom of the world? Yes, that. No, it's godly wisdom, not man's wisdom. And sometimes we go off track. I've done that. For after that, in the wisdom of God, the world by wisdom knew not God. It pleased God by the foolishness of preaching to save them that believed. For the Jews require a sign, and the Greeks are after wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified, unto the Jews a stumbling block, and unto Greeks foolishness. And by Jesus Christ and his grace will we make it. Do you hear me? Grace. But unto them which are called both Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For you see your calling, and that's what I'm trying to do today. Do you see your calling, brethren? How that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty are, not many noble are called. But God has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound those things which are mighty. So someday you will teach all these mighty people. And boy, we need it. The politicians are really going. 1 Corinthians 1:28. And the base things of the world and the things which are despised, God hath chosen. Yea, and the things which are not, to bring to naught the things that are. That is why you're called. This is why the people should be here. That no flesh should glory in his presence. We make mistakes. But of him are you in Christ Jesus, who of God is made unto us wisdom and righteousness and sanctification, and the last one, there it is, redemption, that you can make it into the kingdom of God. 1 Corinthians 1:31, that according it is written, he that glory, let him glory in the Lord. So what did we learn today? God gave Solomon riches and wisdom. And why did he sin? Lust. It's pretty reasonable. Beautiful woman. And he's got a dozen already, or 20, or 30, or 50, or 100. And he goes after another one. What did he choose? I'm asking you the question in your mind. What did he choose? You know, he chose to please his wives. I read that. He chose to please his wives and the world. He had Egypt's king. He had the daughter of Egypt's king living with him. And I pointed out, I tried to, a difference between our thinking of wisdom and God's. There's a difference of wisdom. There's a difference of knowledge of what God wants you to do, wants me to do, and what the world wants us to do.